Right. Hello, citizens of the Nigelverse. It is Nigel here once again, and this is going to be another wrestling review. So, we're starting off our reviews here in WrestleMania season, or at least the lead up to WrestleMania season. And we're starting off with a bang and kind of a whimper. Me being a wrestling reviewer on the internet, I figured it was only a matter of time before I reviewed this match. So, without further ado, let's just get it over with. I'm talking about Booker T versus Triple H at WrestleMania 19. Now, as always, I'm not professional wrestling reviewer or analyst or anything like that. Just a man who enjoys a good time. And obvious issues and context and everything aside, which we'll get to, I did have a pretty good time, admittedly, watching this match. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. Now, if you've seen these reviews of mine before, you kind of already know this works, or at least you have an idea of how this works. However, if you haven't, I'm going to be talking about what I liked and disliked about the match. As for how we got here, oh boy, how did we get here? So, Booker T won a 20-man over the top rope battle royal. Well, I want to see exactly when that happened. So Booker T won a 20-man and over the top rope battle royal on the February 24th episode of Raw, eliminating The Rock of all people, which is pretty crazy. But uh, so Booker T was penciled in to face Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. Triple H then comes out and cuts that promo, saying that well, first of all, he calls the WCW World Championship, which Booker T had held previously in WCW, former five-time world champion. He calls that title a joke, and then he says, "People like you don't get to be world heavyweight champion." Now, how eventually Michael Cole, like when they do like the interview and everything, calls him on it like, what do you mean by that? Gee, I wonder. But Triple H tries to clarify, he tries to backtrack, saying, I meant people like, hey, well, he gives two explanations. He means people, well, for starters, people with Booker T's criminal past, but also, WCW guys. Now, a couple things. First of all, Triple H was a WCW guy at one point. Hey, granted, it was briefly. He was there as both Terra Ryzing and and then later Jean Paul Levesque. But he was still there in WCW, but also the comment about him being former WCW world champion, like kind of putting it down and everything, and two very big rebuttals. For starters, there's the world title that Triple H has right now is technically the WCW World Championship. Granted, it doesn't quite have the same lineage. They started the lineage over after it was retired, and then brought back by Eric Bischoff and just handed to Triple H. That's hypocrisy number one. But even if that wasn't the case, when it comes to that World Championship, Triple H still technically won the WCW World Championship because he beat Chris Jericho for the undisputed title the previous year at WrestleMania 18, which they do bring up on commentary. Kind of interesting how Triple H would bring that up despite the obvious hypocrisy. But the very controversial line, very much leaving a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, especially given the implications, given kind of the subtext, the read between the lines, if you will. Oh, now how they do bring up Booker T's kind of past quite a bit. Booker T, he much in his younger years, had been arrested for armed robbery. This took place when he was about 22. That is what they refer to as Booker T's like criminal past and upbringing and everything. But he overcame it and everything. So, surely with him overcoming this and then with these comments by Triple H, surely that means Booker T is going to rise up and conquer the bad guy, right? Well, let's find out. But first of all, starting with what I liked about the match, pretty decent back and forth. Or admittedly, Booker T doesn't look like a total slouch. Granted, because Triple H is the champion and the heel, he does get a majority of the offense in, but Booker T still gets his licks in and goes after Triple H and everything, even in nailing a scissors kick, or I think they still refer to it as an axe kick. Or actually, he does attempt the axe kick, but he goes over. But I think he does nail one as well. But also a scissors kick. So Booker T still gets his still gets his shots in on Triple H, including some pretty nasty chops. So there is that going for him. And it's actually some pretty decent back and forth. Another part of it is when Jr. like absolutely pops when Triple H busts out an Indian Deathlock, saying, and that was the first time in 10 years he's seen somebody bust it out, and that Triple H, that was the first time he had used it. It's now, the thing about how the Indian Deathlock, to my knowledge, I can't think of anybody else who used it. Funnily enough, in like the WWE Champions mobile game, and when you go for the game, Triple H was like his ruthless aggression look, his finisher is the Indian Deathlock, but it looks kind of weird because it looks like what happens when someone reverses the figure four, like when they have the spot where they like reverse the figure four leg lock and they like they flip over. Right, and saying like, oh, it's reversing the pressure, and then the person who locked in the figure four initially is now on the receiving end of it. It looks pretty similar to that. It looks almost the same, in fact. But actually, I wonder why that was effective here, that was but it wasn't here. And then the story from then on is Booker T not being able to properly use his leg. So they do play with that quite a bit. Booker T not quite able to nail a second scissors kick, and Triple H trying his best to take advantage of the leg and go after the leg. There's that. There's a pretty good story told there. And now let's get to the dislikes. For starters, the big one. Well, actually, yeah, a couple small ones before we get to the very big, very obvious one I'm sure you guys are ever so patiently waiting for me to talk about. Jerry Lawler is insufferable on commentary. Like, he's parroting some of the stuff that Triple H is saying, and then like being super obnoxious. It's now granted the dynamic between Jerry Lawler and JR/slash Jim Ross is all it has usually been that Jerry Lawler is more the heel commentator than JR is the face commentator, and they do bicker back and forth. It gets very annoying and insufferable in this match. Like the jokes and everything that Lawler's making, and like obviously, like I said, he's supposed to be the heel commentator, or so leaning into that and kind of like putting down Booker T and like praising Triple H, but it gets obnoxious really fast and it gets grating. And and granted, they do try to take the edge off it by having JR like immediately call him on it, but it is still very much annoying. It is still very much there. And then that pedigree. So Triple H towards the end of the match, for starters, Booker T does nail, I believe, another scissors kick ultimately, but then Ric Flair, who is ringside the whole time, does put Triple H's leg on the ropes. Ric Flair does has that. I guess that is another plus. Is Ric Flair does Booker T is smart enough to give Ric Flair his comeuppance a couple times, like knocking him off the apron when he gets up to get involved. But later on, eventually, Triple H nails the pedigree on Booker T and spends all day before going for the cover. It's like a solid hit. I wasn't counting. It felt like a good like maybe 30 to 45 seconds. It probably wasn't that long, but it felt super long. Normally in the spot like that they take too long to get the cover, and then they go for the pin, and then the other person kicks out because they took too long. Nope. Apparently, that one pedigree was all it took to keep Booker T down. So Triple H essentially gets the win, and in a pretty wet fart ending. And it's an ending that that hurts on multiple levels, and is more so very frustrating on a couple levels. For starters, there's the bad guy who's been making all these comments, who's been saying all these things, gets the win. And then Booker T, who is the conquering hero, who's supposed to be the conquering hero, supposed to overcome this adversity, prove Triple H wrong, doesn't get that. It is baffling. Apparently, Booker T was supposed to get the win, and I forget what exactly it was that caused them to change their minds. And I don't know if it was Triple H politicking for himself to win, and I wouldn't necessarily put it past him at this point in time. But it seems so simple. It was a very simple thing that you had to do. Give the bad guy their comeuppance, and like have Triple H lose the match. Have the bad guy who is saying all these things finally fall to the conquering hero. Nope, that is not what they do. So, well, essentially, the bad guy gets away with it. It's like the heel, who said, who made these terrible things, said all these terrible comments, is essentially proven right in this match, which is absolutely baffling, and just absolutely baffling, and that's one thing. But then to have him nail that pedigree and then take all day, hey, to cover, like my goodness, did you have to have him take 20 years to crawl over to the cover? Or like if Triple H had just his pinned Booker T immediately after and gotten the win, yeah, it still would have been annoying, but it still would have been pretty frustrating. By having him spend so long laying off to the side before finally crawling over to the cover, or it really twists the knife. And they try to save face by having like Triple H collapse and, oh, he's so tired, and Booker T really gave it to him, but it felt so hollow in a lot of ways. Like, this was absolutely the wrong call. The wrong guy I won in this match 100%. And it's like, if, ladies and gentlemen, if you wanted a clear cut textbook, like textbook, like clear cut, clear as day, crystal clear, definition of the wrong guy winning, and if you looked up the wrong guy winning in the dictionary, an image of this pops up. Like, hey, it was absolutely a baffling call, absolutely the wrong call, oh, for sure. Or like I said, and if Triple H had just pinned immediately, yeah, it still would have been bad. Yeah, it still would have been frustrating. Yeah, it still would have been head scratching. But it wouldn't have been as bad. Like, the fact that Triple H took so long for the cover just made it even worse. Racism won, essentially. He and Booker T had to wait another 3 years to finally win the World Heavyweight Championship in the WWE. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this review. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor: like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and turn on those post notifications so you know every single time I upload a video, so you never miss an upload. I promise this, or at least most of the WrestleMania matches get better from here. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on the match, my review of the match. If you like the match, if you like my review of the match, let me know. Thank you all so much. Man, I cannot talk today, but thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys later. Peace.